The Seventh Tower by Garth Nix. Book 4. Above the Veil. Chapter 22. Tal concentrated on his sunstone, willing orange light to form. Dimly he was aware of Adris shouting and swearing, and the keeper hissing, but he blocked them out. The light was the only thing that mattered. Slowly he wove the orange light out of the ring. It came out as a bright, narrow strand that thickened as it rose up. It became a rope as broad as Tal's arm. He kept drawing more of it out until it rose straight up above him for 20 or 30 stretches. Sweat beaded on Tal's forehead as he concentrated on the end of the rope. He directed it into a loop, tying a slip knot. Then he gently lowered the noose of light down toward the struggling spirit shadows. The noose hung there, Tal holding it with his mind and his sunstone as he waited for an opportunity. It bobbed down a few times, but he never completed the cast. Adris always got in the way. "I can't hold it," whispered Tal after the fourth attempt stopped suddenly in midair as Adris swayed back under the noose. "Adris!" roared Crow. "Push it away!" Adris grunted. For a second he made no move. Then he suddenly let go, and instead of hugging the keeper, pushed it away. At the same time, Tal dropped the noose. It went perfectly over the keeper's head. Instantly Tal tightened it, the rope of light cutting deep into the shadow flesh. Then he quickly wrapped the rope around the rest of its body as Adris leapt free, pinning the spirit shadow in place against the bronze pole. "Quick! I can't keep it going!" This was the moment Crow had waited for. He jumped to the higher pole and swung himself up in front of the struggling spirit shadow. The bag in his hand was made of gold mesh, and he slipped it over the keeper's head, though it struggled to evade him. "Let it go!" shouted Crow. "What?" screamed Tal. "Are you crazy?" The keeper's head was in the strange gold mesh bag, but Tal didn't see how that would help. It would just pull out and knock Crow off before killing Tal and Adris. "Let the rope go!" Tal shook his head. But that had much the same effect. He lost concentration, and the rope began to fade. Tal looked at Adris, ready for a quick getaway. Strangely, the keeper did not pull its head out of the bag. Instead, it actually slithered farther in. Crow held the bag open until all the spirit shadow was inside, then closed the drawstrings tight and hung it over the end of the pole. "Pity is the last one," he said, sitting astride the pole and dusting his hands in the attitude of a man finishing a job well done. "Last what?" asked Tal, staring at the bag. "Shadow sack," replied Crow. "We only had 3. John'll found them for us a few days ago. I don't know where. He wouldn't say." "Can it get out?" "Only if someone lets it out. Someone real. Shadows can't touch that golden metal. Didn't you know? I thought you'd get all this in your lectorium." "No," said Tal. "I'm only beginning to realize all the things I wasn't taught in the lectorium." "We best move on," said Crow. "That was a noisy fight." He started to climb up to the next rod. Tal looked at Adris. "Are you all right?"
"Ha!"
boomed Adris.
"I would have won. It was weak."
"I guess that means you are," Tal said. There were some holes in the spirit shadow's shoulder, but he didn't seem bothered by them. Besides, Tal knew spirit shadows healed very quickly under the sun. "Come on." On the rod above, Crow had stopped to reach into the nets to fill his pockets with sunstones, but he had picked up only a handful when he threw them down again. "These aren't sunstones," he exclaimed angrily. Tal joined him and picked up a handful himself. The stones were shiny black ovals with only the slightest hint of inner fire. "Sunseeds," he said, not admitting to Crow that he had never actually seen them before. "Jewels from Ymir. They must have harvested the ready sunstones just recently and put these out to grow in power." "Just my luck," grumbled Crow. "Let's hope the keystone's still there." He started climbing again, even faster than he had earlier. "Anyone would think it's a race," Tal complained. Then he thought, maybe it is. He didn't know what Crow really wanted up here, or what he had really agreed to. "A bond without blood is no bond," Tal muttered. He reached up to the next pole and swung up. "Adris, Give me a hand." It was a surprisingly long way to the top of the tower, almost as far above the veil as it was below. With Adris's help, Tal caught Crow before too long, but night had fallen before the very pinnacle of the tower was in easy reach. They had been tempted to go onto one of the balconies or walkways and continue up the stairs, but caution had prevailed, so they had kept to the outside, the bronze rods and the nets of spun gold with their carefully arranged sunseeds. Every now and then Crow had taken up a handful just in case, but he had yet to find a proper sunstone. At last they came to the final bronze rod, half Tal's height below the topmost walkway. They could see the spire of the tower, not far above, surrounded by a crown of distant stars. Light still spilled out above them, but not the bright red rays of the lower windows, just a dim, pinkish glow. The tower had grown slender at its peak, little more than 40 stretches in diameter. Tal and Crow sat on the pole, listening, hoping to hear if anything was inside the room above. But all they heard was the wind and the soft rattle of the sunseeds and the nets. "There may be traps," said Crow. "I'd better take a look first." "There may be," said Tal. "Light magic traps. We'd best go together." Crow nodded. He crouched on the pole, hanging on with one hand as he reached up to the railing above, careful to put his hand between the sharp serrations. Tal moved up next to him and had to reach out farther across. Adris hovered next to him and reached out a steadying hand. Crow jumped. An instant later, Tal followed.